The Witcher 3 is well known for its incredible side content, side quests with stories better than the main narratives of some other games. These quests are crafted with care and attention to detail, often including choices that can affect future events or even unlock more quests down the line. It's a complete package, whether it's a 5-minute side mission or a deep, hour-long narrative. But just like with any other great open world game, The Witcher 3 isn't immune to a few weak spots. There are some quests that just aren't as great. Sometimes they're confusing, poorly written, or just plain bad. Thankfully, they are not that common, at least not in my experience, which, considering how much side content this game has, is actually very impressive. So, today I'm going to share what I think it is the worst side quest from each major region in The Witcher 3. And just to be clear, I'm only talking about actual side quests. No contracts, no treasure hunts, just proper side missions. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing, and without wasting much more of your time, let's get to it. Starting with White Orchard, which doesn't actually have that many side quests, mostly because it's the game's starting area and kind of acts as an extended tutorial to get us ready for what's coming. And honestly, most of the side quests here are pretty great. They work really well as an introduction to the kind of side content The Witcher 3 offers. So it is with a bit of a heavy heart that I picked Frying Pan, Spick and Span as the worst side quest in this region. And don't get me wrong, it's a very iconic side quest and I love it very much, but it is the worst of the bunch. While exploring White Orchard, you come across an old woman with a quest marker above her head. When you ask her what's wrong, she explains that a man entered her hut and borrowed her frying pan, promising to return it the next morning. Very weird, but she agreed and the man never came back. And now the door is locked from the inside, she can't get in, and it's her only pan. Now, helping someone find their pan isn't exactly a Witcher's job, but of course, we help.
Never taken on a pan contract. Fine, I'll go in, look around.
Once inside the hut, you immediately notice a corpse, which explains the terrible smell coming from the place. Looting some places around the house, we find a monocle, which explains why around the house you find a few letters. And of course, the pen. Perfectly clean, even though the old woman said it was dirty when she gave it to him. This guy was probably a spy or a messenger who used the pen to make ink to write coded messages. After this, you give the pen back to the lady, explain what happened and go on with your day. It's a short quest and I actually like it a lot, which is why it kinda hurts to call it the worst quest in White Orchard. But truthfully, I just think the other quests in this area are a bit stronger and slightly more engaging. None of them are way better, but they do edge this one out in terms of that. Now moving on to Velen, this is where the game really starts to overwhelm you with side content. And honestly, the quality of these side quests is just incredible. Velen is full of heavier, darker stories, very emotional, but there's one quest in particular that in my opinion is just bad. Like, genuinely bad. Not in terms of the concept, the idea isn't awful, but the execution, horrible. The quest is called Bitter Harvest. It's a short side quest where you help defend a group of scavengers from waves of ghouls. You'll probably come across it early on while exploring Velen. The quest takes place near a battlefield close to the border post, the one where you need a special pass to cross. You can trigger it by either stumbling upon it or by talking to a character literally named Shady Merchant. He offers you a discount on a pass if you help his brother-in-law Albert, who leads the scavengers. Sounds alright so far, but here's where it all goes downhill. During the mission you fight off 4 waves of ghouls. You kill one wave, then wait, another wave, wait again. You get the idea. That waiting alone is already a bit of a drag, but the real problem, Albert, the guy you have to protect, dies on one hit. Doesn't matter the difficulty, and he's the one who gives you the reward at the end. No Albert equals no reward, that equals no discount. And to make matters worse, he's the NPC who rushes in the most during the fight. One hit and boom, you've failed, time to restart. It's frustrating, not fun, and if you're still low level, the mission is almost impossible, especially on that march. So not only you have to repeat the quest every time Albert gets touched, but you also have to wait like a full minute between each wave. Velen is packed with amazing quests, but this one easily sits at the bottom as the worst quest of the bunch. In Novigrad, the grand city of The Witcher 3, there are tons of long and complex quests, but I'll be straight with you. The worst side quest in Novigrad, in my opinion, is one that might already be obvious to some of you, the Reason of State, also known as the assassination of Radovid. And this one is here because it's a prime example of what happens when developers are rushed and run out of time to finish things with the quality they deserve. Reason of State is supposed to be the big conclusion to several other quests. It only happens if you make the right choices throughout the game. It's also the ending to one of the biggest political plots in the entire universe of The Witcher. Politics has always been a huge part of The Witcher universe, so the fact that something as important as deciding who rules the Northern Realms ends in a rushed side quest with what might be the worst ending for any Witcher 3 side quest is just sad. It involves a bunch of incredibly interesting characters: Radovid, Philippa, Roach, Vass, Talar, and of course Dijkstra. But instead of calling this the assassination of Radovid, we should probably call it the assassination of Dijkstra, because that's what it really feels like. His character gets completely sacrificed because the devs ran out of time to properly finish the messy and convoluted political arc. There are missing characters, plot holes, and tons of cut content related to the war between the Northern Kingdoms. And to make things worse, this quest takes place right before the final mission of the entire game. If you don't do it at that exact point, you lose the chance forever, and Radovid wins by default. All of this at the cost of one of the most brilliant minds in the Witcher universe. Dijkstra isn't just some smart guy, and you see his genius in how he moves behind the scenes in several quests throughout the game, but physically he's not a threat. He's overweight, slow, and limps thanks to Geralt's generosity. So how does it all end? Dijkstra in the end betrays us, while Geralt is still standing right there. You then have to choose: let him kill Roach, Vass, and Talar, or kill Dijkstra to protect them. And this makes zero sense. An intelligent character like Dijkstra would never show up in person with so few guards, knowing full well that Geralt, one of the strongest Witchers ever, could wipe out dozens of men on his own. And that's without the help of the former Blue Stripes commander and his best soldier. I just can't take this ending seriously, unless we actually see what Dijkstra brought in his pockets: a chicken sandwich. That's really cool. Anyway, let's just move on from this overcomplicated quest and let's move to something much simpler in Skellige. And it won't take too long to talk about, because the worst side quest here is honestly really short. While exploring the islands, you'll come across yet another one of those unmarked side quests that just pop up on the map. This one is called For Fame and Glory, and when you find it, you'll run into two warriors standing at the entrance of a cave. When you talk to them, they say they're here to kill some necrophages inside. It actually sounds familiar, right? Yeah, it sounds very familiar to another quest we already talked about earlier in the video, and it's about to get even more similar. If you agree to help them, they immediately sprint into the cave like they're invincible. Spoiler, of course they're not. These guys are incredibly fragile. They die in just a few hits. Sometimes you might get lucky and they survive, or you may be fast enough to protect them, but honestly, your best shot is probably to use Axii on them before heading in, just to slow things down and kill the monster before they arrive. And here's the worst part: if either one of them dies, nothing happens. No cutscenes, no dialogue, no reward. The quest just fails. That's it. You're forced to reload and do it all over again from the start. So yeah, a very short quest, weak and annoying purely because of how fragile the NPCs are, and how the quest design punishes you for something that's barely in your control. I said Skellige would be quick, but I do want to give an honorable mention, I guess, to the infamous In Wolf's Clothing, the Morkvar quest. The first time I played it, I found it extremely boring and confusing. Maybe that's a skill issue, who knows, but honestly, after replaying it 2 or 3 more times, I started to appreciate it a lot more. Anyway, let's now move on to Kaer Morhen. And it is kind of a weird place. Side quests here aren't really anything grand or epic, and honestly, they're not meant to be. Kaer Morhen focuses way more on the main story, so picking the worst side quest here was actually a bit tricky, but in the end I decided to go with Monster Slayer, and that's mostly just a personal choice, because of something that happens during this quest. Near the lake in Kaer Morhen, you'll start seeing some torn up drowner corpses, which is already unusual in Kaer Morhen. If you follow the trail, it leads to a cave, and inside that cave is a rock troll, and this is where I start having a problem. The troll attacks you immediately, no warning, no dialogue. That feels wrong. Trolls in the Witcher universe are peaceful creatures. We meet so many of them, even some right here in Kaer Morhen, and we usually just talk to them, joke with them even. I really think this quest would have been way more memorable if this was another one of those peaceful trolls. If we could just talk to him, calm him down, maybe offer him a rock or something. I just don't feel good about killing trolls in this game. I never have. Inside the cave, we find an old letter that talks about a plan to attack Kaer Morhen, which is actually a really interesting little detail. That's it, the quest ends there. there. It's not a terrible quest, it's just not one that I enjoyed. I feel like it was just thrown in to add some life to the otherwise quiet and lonely vibe of Kaer Morhen. Killing that troll, not a huge fan. In Toussaint, the grand fairy tale land, I think you've probably already heard every compliment possible about Toussaint. It's another massive area packed with side content full of life and beautiful details. But there's one side quest that can actually go on for hours depending on how fast you go through it, and it's not talked about as much as some others. I'm of course talking about the Wine Wars. It actually starts off pretty strong. You meet two vineyard owners and they both hire a witcher to deal with 5 problems each in their respective vineyards. Right from the start you can tell they're rivals, but there's a bit of a weird vibe, like deep down they kind of like each other. The scenes where they show up are great, the dialogue is solid, and honestly they're pretty charming characters. The huge problem with Wine Wars is that the quest mostly turns into doing the exact same thing over and over and over again. Go to a location, kill some monsters, go to the next one, do the same thing, rinse and repeat across the entire Toussaint map. Most of the time there's literally nothing else there, just monsters and some soldiers. No meaningful side story, no big reveal, nothing. But eventually you do find a big reveal. You find some notes that hint at a third party sabotaging both vineyards. And in the end, surprise, it was someone who's already dead. So yeah, there's nothing left to do about it. And just when you think it's over, guess what? You get even more objectives, more monsters to kill. The quest just doesn't want to end. Now, I will admit, I do like the ending. It's a wholesome moment. The two owners realize they didn't really hate each other after all, and they decide to name a wine in Geralt's honor, which is a very little nice gesture. Like I said, the scenes with them are genuinely great, but this is one of the only side quests in The Witcher 3 that really feels like doing chores. And that's saying something, because this game actually hides those chores really well. So yeah, these were the worst side quests from each region in The Witcher 3, at least in my opinion. I didn't include the races or the fist fights, that by the way they're not that bad. The races are just more like of a block your opponent simulator, but they're really fast to do and they can be fun. Some of these quests on the other hand are slow, repetitive, or just kind of disappointing. But that's a rare thing in The Witcher 3. With so many side quests in this game, the fact that it was actually hard to choose the worst ones, that's a very good sign. Let me know in the comments what are your picks for the worst side quests in the game, and as always, thank you so much for watching.